So it seems early days, Janet, but it felt like we learned a fair amount about the presidential campaign of 2016 and this week of 2015. And starting with our own poll, which told us some things about Hillary Clinton, I took it to mean that she's in pretty good shape despite a rough time. And I guess that's how you saw it, because that's the story you wrote this week.
That's right. I mean, it was kind of a good news, bad news result for Hillary. The bad news was her, this had been the first poll since she'd really absorbed all of the controversies about her email and the foreign donations to the Clinton Foundation. And her negatives overall, people felt there were more people feeling negatively towards her than 7 weeks ago when we did our last poll. But she is solid as a rock among Democrats. And, that's her first constituency. She first has to get the nomination. And she is just one of the most established figures in American politics. And so most people have a pretty firm opinion about her, and the Democrats are really sticking with her. As our pollster, Bill McInturff, liked to say, it's going to take a lot of torpedoes to sink this battleship.
And I guess if the popular assumption has been that maybe she's got a problem on the left, did we see any of that in these numbers at all? The left in her own party.
Not really. I mean, to the extent that I saw any of the negatives go up as a result of these well, I don't know about as the result of, but
in conjunction
with the scandals, it was more among independents, and there was some increase in negativity among blue collar workers, which those are constituencies that she really needs to worry about, but more in the general election.
See, but that's interesting, because I've always thought that one of the natural effects of attacks on Hillary Clinton from anybody who's center to the right would be kind of the base rallying around her. Like we don't love her, but she's ours, and you can't attack her. And I wonder if we're already starting to see a little bit of that.
Yeah, I do think that there's some of that. Actually, one of the levels that we were measuring was how people viewed particular characteristics of Hillary Clinton. And one of the more interesting ones was whether she was seen as honest and straightforward. And a lot of Americans in general, like half of people said that they didn't rate her very well on that. But among Democrats, a very, very small number of people viewed her as dishonest and not straightforward. So that could be just base rallying. It could also be that you kind of hear and see what you want to see in the leader of your own party.
What do we learn about the Republican field from the poll? Obviously, Jeb Bush seems to have a fairly narrow lead, but others, there seems to be a muddle beneath him.
Yeah, and probably in the grand scheme of things, what we've really learned about the Republican field is it is very ill-defined and shifting a lot, because different Republican candidates polled very differently than they did when we looked at them last month. Most of them aren't very well known, and so you give them a little bit of information and people change their views. So, for example, the candidates that just announced over the last month, we saw a lot of increase in the number of Republicans who said, hey, I could vote for that guy. Jeb Bush is the one who is well known, and he improved over the last month as well in the assessment of Republican primary voters. When asked specifically who would you vote for of this list, Jeb Bush had a narrow lead over the rest of the field. But interestingly, when we asked the broader question of could you support this candidate, Marco Rubio came out on top.